What waiting teaches, nobody chooses to wait. We endure it. We survive it. We fill it with noise so we don't have to feel how uncomfortable it really is. The scrolling, the busyness, the constant reaching for the next thing. Because waiting asks something of us that nothing else does. It asks us to trust what we cannot see. And for someone already carrying depression, already exhausted by anxiety, already worn thin by seasons that seem to have no end, waiting can feel less like a spiritual discipline and more like cruelty, like being told to stand still while the ground shifts beneath your feet. But what if waiting is not something that happens to you while God is doing nothing? What if waiting is where He does some of His most important work? The theology of the in-between. There is a pattern woven through all of Scripture that we often overlook because we read stories knowing how they end. Joseph waited in a pit, then in a prison. 13 years between the dream and the throne. 13 years of silence, of injustice, of circumstances that made no sense from the inside. And in every one of those years, the text quietly tells us the same thing. The Lord was with Joseph. Not after the waiting. During it, David was anointed king as a teenager and spent years hiding in caves from the man he was meant to replace. The promise was real. The crown was coming. And still the caves. Still the running. Still the years of not yet. And in those years, David wrote some of the most honest, searching, beautiful prayers in human history. The kind of prayers that only come from people who have had nothing left to hold on to but God Himself. The waiting was not wasted time. The waiting was the formation. Reformed theology has always understood this. God does not work around our suffering to accomplish His purposes. He works through it. The in-between is not a delay in the story. It is the story. What the silence is forming in you. When everything is comfortable, faith is easy to mistake for something else. For optimism, for good circumstances, for the feeling that things are going well. But when the silence stretches, when the prayer goes unanswered past the point where you expected an answer, when the season refuses to turn, when you cannot feel His presence and yet you keep returning to Him anyway, that is when faith reveals what it actually is. It is not a feeling. It is a rootedness, and roots do not form in the sunshine. They form in the dark, pressing deeper because the surface has nothing left to offer. You are being rooted right now, in the silence, in the waiting, in the season that has gone on longer than you thought you could bear. And when the storm comes, and storms always come, you will discover that you are more anchored than you knew, because you were formed in the quiet, because you learned to hold on when holding on was all there was. The promise inside the wait. Lamentations 3 is one of the darkest passages in all of Scripture. It is a man in ruins, sitting in the wreckage of everything he loved, describing the weight of suffering with a rawness that feels almost too honest for church. And then, from inside that darkness, he writes this, "Yet this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness." Yet, that single word carries the entire weight of what faith looks like in a waiting season. Not because the circumstances changed, not because he suddenly felt better, but because he called something to mind. He chose deliberately to remember what was true, even when nothing around him confirmed it. You can do that too, right now, in whatever quiet, heavy, uncertain place you are sitting in tonight. His mercies are new this morning. Even this morning, even for you. The waiting has not disqualified you from His faithfulness. It is the very place where His faithfulness is being proven, slowly, quietly, without fanfare, in the keeping of a soul that has nothing left to offer but its own continued presence. Stay. Keep waiting. Keep returning. He has not forgotten where you are. He put you there, and He will not leave you there forever. With grace. Whisper of grace.